Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raad Life. You know, one aspect that's been fascinating to me, and I've been really have not gotten an answer on, is businesses to a certain extent these days have either some e-commerce component or they have some sort of electronic way of conducting business. So for a lot of people that I've interviewed, it has been definitely a jarring shift, but they've been kind of doing it maybe, where the dial was set at like 10 miles an hour, and now they're cranking it up to 30 miles an hour or 40 miles an hour. Uh, but there are certain businesses, certain industries that are very much a people in person business. And the lady I have with me today is a good friend of mine, Mikii, here from San Clemente. Mikii is in the business of events. And so I don't know how events are taking place these days. So I'm like, I need to talk to Mikii. I need to find out what's going on with her. Plus, she also has a brick and mortar in Del Mar, in the historical heart of the San Clemente. And so I wanted to get that perspective. I think you have an interesting combination that you can share with us, Mikii. So first and foremost, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a thrill to be on the Rad Life. Thanks for inviting me.
That's
Definitely a
very, very,
highlight of my COVID time.
very, very, very sweet of you to say. And I love that you're doing this at the store. So, I'm like, well, I wonder what she's got set up at the store right now. So thanks for giving me an insight.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. I mean, first of all, you've been in this business for a long time, right? How long you've been doing events?
Yes. I've been doing events for over 20 years. I worked in the hotel industry prior to starting my own business 10 years ago,
Right.
Neon Carrot Events. So
So, and
yeah,
and, and and I want to get your take on that too, because we both are sort of affiliated or have been affiliated with that market and industry, and I want to see from an event planning side of it, or what you're hearing from some of the people that in that industry, because that's been hit hard too. Um,
very.
yeah. So, in the 20 years that you've been doing this event planning, have you seen anything like this?
No, I haven't seen anything like this. We have had, of course, economic downturns where corporations and businesses maybe weren't holding as many meetings or conferences, or
Right.
they were scaling way back on their meetings and conferences. But hotels and conference centers were still open. They were
Mhm.
just running at lower occupancy. So a lot of times you hear comparisons between this pandemic and the situation that we faced at 9/11, and it's
Right.
different in that hotels weren't closing. Like our hotel company, we didn't close. We did scale back hours and we did lay people off, but there was still business taking place.
Well, and I think the industry as a whole, because of technology, because of cost of travel, the availability of alternatives such as telecommuting or teleconferencing, or using something like a Zoom, or a conference call line. Excuse me. It's been changing. It's been evolving. Like, even the size of the ballroom, size of event space has shrunk. There's a couple of years ago, there was so much space that was for large scale events or conferences, but people there was a shortage of places that you could house maybe like a 50-person networking or something. So you started seeing a change in how things were being built, how they were being separated, as an offering. So yes, you're right. I mean, and it came up in a couple of other interviews, whereas previous times it was an economic slowdown. This is not an economic slowdown. People just remember that the year began with a major push. It was on steroids. I mean, even compared to last quarter, this beginning first quarter of 2020 was just buzzing, and we got hit with something that wasn't really economic. And I had an economist on here this week, and Logan Matashami, and he was talking about how interest rates are down, money resources are around now. Granted, maybe startup money or seed money or angel investment is like a little bit more hesitant right now, but again, the indicators in the economy are solid. Now, we may have been going toward a slowdown a little bit, maybe, or whatever, but nothing like this. This came out of nowhere, right?
It really did. And it was an interesting thing because there were individuals who really had some foresight about it. And I think maybe really understood what was going to happen over a period of time. And then there were those of us, myself included, who really sort of downplayed it just a little bit, that I knew it was serious, but I thought, it's like a really bad flu. We're
Yes.
going to be okay. We can still have these meetings. I'm working with clients on ways to still have their conference, have their convention, but no handshaking, and we'll add hand sanitizer stations and all the typical things.
Right.
Until suddenly it was like almost overnight, the collective, oh, we get it. This is bad. And we all have to pitch in together. I know it's the term everyone uses, flatten the curve, but we need to stay home, and
Well,
we can't have.
we'll see. We'll see how much sequestering people can really take,
Right.
because I
It's
think
working. So maybe
it's
it doesn't need to be a lot.
no, it's working. But
Yeah.
I don't. When the projections are 3 months of this, it's going to be
Yeah. That's painful.
it's going to test people's limitations, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll tell you this: we being part of the sort of quote unquote essential services as far as construction goes, we have adapted, additional security measures and so forth. I'm only going to like job sites late in the afternoon when there's less people there. It's mask and gloves all the time, but I have noticed an increase in traffic on the freeways. Like, I can't tell you how nice it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right? You're like the only car on the 73 freeway. You're the only car on the 5. I mean, it's just like there's nothing. And over
Yeah.
the last week, I will tell you, it has started to look not necessarily normal, but it has definitely increased, right? So I keep
Interesting.
thinking,
Yeah.
where are people's thresholds in terms of this sort of physical distancing? I mean, social distancing was the term, and then we didn't like that after a while, and we started calling it physical distancing, because
Yeah.
how could you be social distancing when you're using social media or what? But
Right.
we are going to find ourselves in that space that you just described. I think because this is not going to go away, this is going to come back again. They're already talking about next flu season, right? So I think there are certain things that have changed forever, at
Yeah.
least for the time being, in the foreseeable future. I think masks are here to stay. I think hand sanitizer stations, increased sort of visibility of higher hygiene guidelines. I think all of that stuff is going to be around for a long time.
Yes.
And so that is going to be our reality. What is interesting for me, was your business really like? You had events probably lined up. This is a busy season for you, right?
It is, yes. March kicks off wedding season for us in Southern California, that we have such good weather here that, so, our wedding season starts a little bit early, starts in March. And then I also have corporate events, large corporate events that take place in March, April, May, and June. So it's drastically affected. Yep.
And what was the first indication, Mikii? I mean, you knew what was going on, but did you reach out to your clients? Did they reach out to you? Was it a combination? How do you navigate those waters? This is like a major change that's taking place, right, in real
Yes.
time.
Yes. And it varied by client or by couple. So for my corporate clients, I had one that was not as risk averse. So they were kind of willing to push the envelope. And even into the first week of March, they were still saying, we're a go for this conference that we're going to have in Texas, and hadn't called it off. We do work with a number of large corporate sponsors, and some of those folks were starting to ask
Mhm.
and saying, oh, are you really going to have this event? Or, gosh, you know what, we have some travel orders where, we're not supposed to go to these events anymore. What are you doing?
Right.
And they were still like, no, no, we're okay. We're still going to move forward with it. And it was until some of the cities were putting out orders of, you need to start staying at home. And they went, oh, okay, this isn't as smart. We have associates who are concerned, associates' families who are concerned, as well as some of the other, vendor sponsors that they worked with were concerned about coming.
Hmm.
So that's when they made the decision to move into August.
And has it been that, what I've heard from conferences and things I was supposed to go to, or events that were planned, has it been more a postponement, or have you had cancellations, or a combination of both?
It's been a combination of both. Fortunately for me, I've had more postponements than cancellations, which I'm really thankful for, just from the financial stability of my own
Sure.
business. And then also for the joy of what I do, of still getting to work with these clients, and their associates and attendees who come to these events really enjoy them.
Right.
So I'm glad that we've been able to, have more postponements
What
than
about what about sort of a new hybrid derivative, whether it's a current, or for the time being stopgap measure, or maybe it's a new, evolution of an added service that you offer. But what about
yeah.
like uh, virtual events? Have you seen that? Are you doing some of those? Tell me a little about that.
Sure. So far for my corporate clients, we haven't converted, at least so far, any of their in-person meetings to virtual meetings, that they're, 300 plus type attendee events, and they really like having people together, so they haven't wanted to move.
Hmm.
But I have had some weddings that have still moved forward that then became streamed weddings.
Hmm.
So where it was, immediate family, the under 10 person gathering guidelines, 6 to 8 people, where they still had their wedding, and then we live streamed it so that friends and family could participate and watch, which was really fun. So I have some audiovisual companies that I work with that have that capability to be
Hmm.
able to send, 1 or 2 people with all the proper precautions to be able to
Now,
have.
was that earlier on, Mikii, when those 10 or less guidelines were sort of in place? Okay, got it.
Yeah,
You're you're
early
you're
on.
you're not bootlegging events right now with 10 or 11.
No, we're not bootlegging events right now, no. And it's become so unfun, for couples who are so excited to, share this incredible event of their wedding, that they don't want to do it now. And they don't even want to, I have some May and even June weddings that are like, nope, we're going to move. Because even if the restrictions are lifted, they feel like that people, their guests, may be financially impacted and might not be able to come and
Right.
travel. People may still have the concerns about traveling and not want to come, so that we've moved a lot of things actually into next year, into 21, and then a few things into the third and fourth quarter of this year.
So with not necessarily your customers or your clients, but what about like the venues and some of your suppliers? Has there been a a mixed reaction to this in terms of, I mean, I would think everybody's in this together, right? Everybody's, excuse the pun, is in the same basket. But what
Yeah.
what has been the reaction from the industry side of it, not so much from the client side?
Sure. It's varied a little bit. You are right that there is that mentality that we're all in this together, and we're all going to try to, do the best thing and provide quality service to our customers. So many venues have been very flexible, and look, you've already paid your deposits or paid for your event. We're happy to move it to an open date
Hmm.
at no additional or no change in the fees. Some venues have said, we're happy to move your event, but if it happens to be on a date that's at a higher price, for example, maybe you had a Thursday or a Friday date and now you're going to move to a Saturday, and that premium pricing, that you would need to pay the difference. So it has varied a little bit by venue how they're handling, the pricing of moving these
Well,
events.
I think you know we've talked about it. I've talked about it on a couple of shows, where the way that a company basically deals with their employees right now, the way that they deal with their brand, there needs to be sort of a sensitivity to the current condition, a little empathy, a little feeling of pain, if you will, like the common
Yeah.
joint pain. It's going to be interesting to see, like, people that are on the vendor side of this and any industry, and how they deal with us, the quote unquote their customer, and
Yes.
whether that actually then basically shapes our relationship with them going forward. Because if you're short-sighted and you're basically looking at, and it may be driven by necessity. I'm not going to knock anybody because that's their only option. But I think if you have any kind of room right now, the way to play this is to actually, you know show that you have sensitivity to people's realities. And look at what the loans that are being put out there for SBA loans and the nature of those loans. I mean, less than 3 months ago, if you had said to somebody, "Hey, how about you guys put these kind of loans together?" They would have said, "Hey, you're nuts. No way. Why would we ever do that?" Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. One thing that has been interesting, that I have seen with different vendors is how people are handling their deposit policies.
Okay.
So for many of us, myself included, you leave a deposit for an event, that deposit is non-refundable.
Right.
And in ordinary times, maybe if someone decided to cancel their wedding, it wouldn't be a big deal to say, I'm sorry, your deposit's non-refundable.
Right.
But it has been a thing now where if there are folks who are looking to cancel their wedding or event as opposed to postponing it, that some vendors are saying, look, no, I'm not giving you back your deposit. It's not refundable as we already agreed. And then some are. So it really is, varying people's.
It's almost like holding the line more firmly, or actually being a little bit more understanding, if you will.
Yes.
Right. And again, I think you can't really, at the end of the day, those kind of things become on a case by case basis, because there are people out there that will, for whatever reason, cancel this because it's like, oh well, we really want to spend the money, so now this is a built-in excuse to basically do
Yeah,
it.
right.
I've seen people do it already, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So
we're just going to elope, oh
yeah,
well.
yeah, and you raise an interesting point relevant to that. When you were saying that people are postponing their weddings, because yes, there's an impact on how many people are going to be able to attend. The financial reality is not limited to them in terms of paying for the event. It's also about the people that are going to attend. The kind of gifting. It's going to be interesting to see, Mikii, as in your business, whether the nature of what people are buying, what people are buying into, the nature of what these events start to look like, whether
Yeah.
we are going to step away from, and I'm using it only because it's a movie reference, but crazy rich Asians, kind of like, everything and the sun and bling
Yes.
bling, and wait a minute, I need more bling bling than the last one I saw, to
Yeah.
something that's a little bit more meaningful. Like maybe these events start taking on a different kind of character,
Yeah.
because it's a reflection of what we're going through as a society.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I will say that in 2008, the last time that we saw a bit of an economic downturn, weddings changed then as well. And sort of in the industry, we joke that, oh, that's when we started using mason jars and burlap. That people were looking for inexpensive ways to decorate and to do things. And that's where you saw this surge in baby's breath and, things that people maybe had on hand, or that,
Chalkboards and
yeah,
succulents. Yeah.
right. And then it became really trendy. And we've now come out of that, though. And now we're, back into a time where people were, using more of their financial resources to have elaborate events that had, different and more luxury type textiles and florals. So we might go back again, to something, you're right, that maybe is a little,
Well, I mean, I was having a conversation earlier today on another episode, and it was like, we were recording, and I was talking about, your measure of, of your status. Okay, your symbols of status was what you were driving, where you were living, sort
yeah,
of the freedom that gave you. Well, guess what? Whether you're in a 1-bedroom apartment or whether you're in a 50,000 square foot house right now, you're all both sequestered. Nobody's driving, so it doesn't matter what you have in the garage, right?
yeah,
You know,
right,
it's an interesting kind of duality. There's almost like a leveling of equity, almost, across some things that we used to use as sort of benchmarks for, status, if you will.
yeah. It's now
And
have Charmin,
well, no, now it's like, what are your intrinsic people
yeah,
skills? Honestly, like
yeah,
your empathy, your compassion, your your authenticity. It's kind of interesting. It's really interesting. It's only been 2 weeks, but if we go through this for 90 days, it's going to really kind of evolve both sides. You're going to see the ugliness side of it, and you're going to see kind of sort of the noble side of it, I believe.
yeah.
One last question before we move on to the retail side of your business and the brick and mortar side of your business. Tell me something from the event side that so far you have encountered that you were surprised by.
Oh boy.
Something that just comes to mind, like,
Yeah, well, the first thing that came to mind was just hotel and event centers closing.
Yeah.
I grew up in the hotel industry, like out of college. That's where I started my career and where I started working. And when you opened a hotel, I remember, and I have one of these certificates, and it talks about when a hotel opens, the key is thrown away because you are now open. That
Hmm.
hotels are one of those 24/7 types of
They never
business,
close. Right.
and they never close. And to think that, wow, hotels, like places where, I worked and people that I worked with and where I gained so much of my experience and so much of my heart lives there, that they're closed. That really, it really got me, and how fast it happened.
Hmm.
Like over, a week or 2 week period, that, we went from thriving, bustling
Hmm.
hotels to, do we know where the key is? How do we lock the front
Yeah,
door?
we went from
Yeah.
we can't build enough
Right.
to,
Yeah.
oh my God, are we going to be able to fill more than, 10? I mean, people were throwing away capacity and RevPAR like it was going out of style, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
we had a new brand coming out from Marriott almost on a monthly basis, right? Do you want the
Yeah.
green one? Do you want the red one? Do you want the blue one? Do you want the one with the shiny roof? The one without the shiny roof? You name it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it is fascinating. I mean, it's jarring, really jarring.
Yeah.
Have you heard from a lot of your people that that acquaintances and friends and colleagues and so forth in that industry where they have had similar kind of the layoffs and the furloughs and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Like hundreds, thousands. I mean, I don't know thousands of people, on a personal basis.
But a big enough chunk of the people that you know.
But yeah, lots of people, yep, who are furloughed, who are laid off. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard.
that's gonna if we get the green the all clear sounding siren tomorrow and everything is fine. I think that the other thing that people are now only just starting to realize is that we're going to have a period of time before we get comfortable enough to literally stick our head out of the hole. Like
Yes.
there's going to be a psychological aspect to this that drags beyond the all clear,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and psychologically, when it comes to discretionary spending, I think that's where it's going to trail. And hopefully next time we are faced with something like this, which everybody's saying is going to be coming again, we are a little bit better situated, better suited to not take such a dip again.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think the number of job jobless applications or for assistance were like something like 10 million by the last number, and the new numbers are supposed to be coming out any day, and its projection is it could be as high as 15 million.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. It's staggering.
so
Yeah.
you're obviously still open as a brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit because I know you've shifted a little bit. You're doing more deliveries now. Talk about that a little bit, Mikii.
Yeah, sure. So in addition to Neon Carrot Events, which is our event planning company, we have a storefront that's called Miki's on Del Mar, and it's in downtown San Clemente. And we're not open, but we're open for delivery. So if you were to drive by on any given day, like the door's locked, you can't come in and shop, and look around. But we do virtual shopping appointments. So if folks have seen something maybe on our Facebook or Instagram and say, oh, I'm really in the need of something for someone's birthday, we've been sending them inspiration photos of things that we have or ideas of great gifts or balloon bouquets that they can then choose, pay for online, and then we've been delivering them to people's homes in the Beach Cities area.
So that's an expansion of your service that you really weren't doing before, right?
That absolutely, yeah, it wasn't something that we were doing before, and it was one of those things where we went, okay, we have to be closed, but gosh, we want our business to survive.
Hmm.
How else can we continue to support our business financially, but also be a service to the community?
Hmm.
That, I myself am, an extrovert, and I'm like one of these, ultimate optimists, and that I sort of overcompensate in stressful situations like this by trying to bring as much joy as I can and doing things that are fun and that make me happy.
It's a way for you
And
to cope with the situation too, I think, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure. So I thought, well, I can deliver balloons, like, because people were still wanting to have celebrations at home, that people were doing, Zoom birthday parties for their son or daughter's first birthday or 16th birthday or 18th birthday or 50th birthday, and being able to have balloons there to help in the visual celebration, but also to uplift their spirits.
Right.
And it's been great. But every day I have, multiple balloon deliveries for all kinds of different occasions. There's been ones where people have been celebrating the end of their chemotherapy treatment, and their
Hmm.
family wanted to send them some balloons because they weren't able to be there to celebrate with them in person. Or a husband, who's having a 50th birthday, and had had a big trip planned but couldn't do that, so we brought a bunch of balloons so that they could have a party at home.
Well, and you've got Mother's Day coming up. I'm sure that even more so than even Easter. I know you're doing some baskets for people, but I think Mother's Day will probably be a big one for that one, especially with people not being able to visit, or even if they can visit, they're staying away from all elder members of their family because they're sort of in that vulnerable group.
For
Uh,
sure.
yeah.
Yes, so we'll have Mother's Day balloons, Mother's Day cards, Mother's Day gifts. Yep, we'll have all that available coming up
And
here
and,
soon.
and I didn't put it on the wall behind me. Sorry, Mikii. But how do people? I mean, you obviously, it sounds like you're advertising your capabilities more so than maybe packages, or using social media, and people, it's like word of mouth. They're finding you, right? How do they for people who are watching this? How do they get hold of you for something like that? Because I think Mother's Day, especially, is going to be pretty busy for you.
Sure. So, depending upon what social media you use, Instagram and Facebook, if you search Miki's on Del Mar, will pop up, and you can message us via those apps, as well as looking at inventory and things we have, and maybe special offers. We also have a banner up in front of our store, so for those folks who do drive by
Hmm.
and are looking to find out, oh, are they open or what are they doing, we have a big banner that says balloon and gift delivery, and then also has a phone number there that people can call or text to let us know that they're interested in something.
Um, and then your event, I'm just going to put it up here, is neoncarrotevents.com.
Yeah,
That's another separate thing that you have also social media on. But again, I think it's interesting because it almost sounds to me like almost like I cannot be there physically, but I want to celebrate somebody, or I want to send them some sort of emotional support. I'm thinking of them. I can always jump on a Zoom call. Although, let me tell you, having tried to do this with elder members of my family, it
yeah,
is not an easy task. Like to, basically get
yeah,
them to where they can, instinctively turn on the Zoom thing on their phone. It's almost like, don't worry about it. Just when you get this thing, just hit this link. That's all you need to
yeah,
do, right?
right?
But
Yeah,
and so you can sort of share some FaceTime with them, if you will. But then having a tangible thing that also gets delivered, I think that's another layer to this, that you can still maintain a connectivity and maintain your relationships with people that you can't physically see. And hopefully, we don't have to continue to resort to this forever, that the time away from our loved ones is short rather than long. But in the meantime, somebody like you, I appreciate you being here and sharing that, because between the Neon Carrot Events business, and then Miki's on Del Mar, you're definitely out there doing this for people. So
yeah,
I appreciate that, my friend, very much. I thank you for taking the time to share that with us. I will have my fingers crossed that this is short, because everybody who's in a brick and mortar, I really feel for people that have those leases and those fixed costs and the overheads and inventory and all that good stuff. And hopefully we'll get to not necessarily the old normal, but a
yeah.
thriving new normal in the future.
Yes. My
Uh, yeah.
wishes are with you. Ditto to all of that.
Yeah, and I know you're also very involved with the Downtown Business Association, the DBA in San Clemente, and you're on the board. And so again, I mean, I wanted to share some of these success stories, and I want to put it out there to you. I've mentioned it to Chris and Michelle on the DBA, but I'm putting it out to you. Anybody that is in town that is interested. I mean, part of doing this is also to put these resources in front of people. I mean, genuinely, if you are out there wanting to celebrate Mother's Day and you cannot celebrate Mother's Day, then this is a way. Like, here's a business in town that can possibly help you still celebrate Mother's Day. Maybe not in a way you wanted to celebrate Mother's Day, but you can still celebrate it. So
Yeah,
thanks,
definitely.
Mikii. Put the word out. If anybody is interested in the downtown area to jump on the show, by all means, you know me, I'm like you. I overcompensate during hard times and
Yeah.
try to do more. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. My best wishes. Stay safe. And
Thank you very much. I sure will. It's been a joy and so fun to be on the Rad Life, and really appreciate you looking out for our local businesses. I feel really blessed to live in town, have a business here, that we definitely have the one town, one team mentality, and
one
people
town,
are
one team.
for each other.
We're all in
So
it. We're all in it together.
yes, I
So
feel very blessed.
thank